Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Okay. So tonight, as is our custom, it's a commemoration of the life of Chah, in which the occasion of his passing away is the marker. The sense being that, although it seems strange not commemorating somebody's death exactly, but the sense of the freedom from the bodily condition, and the Chah say the phrase is relinquishes the aggregates. Let's go of the aggregates. To something that what his life was about. Really, and maybe what our lives can be about. And process whereby realizing that practice is fruitful and deepening in this life. It doesn't mean we have to die before we get any benefit from it. Relinquishing the tenacious grasp of form, particularly bodily form, one's own, feeling. We call our own feelings, we call them our own. Perceptions, meanings, impressions, the way things strike me. Responses, reactions, intentions, my drives and directions. And consciousness, that web of sight, sound, and so forth, and thought, that seems to locate me. There's a saying in one of the teachings in the suttas is that likens these to 5 assassins who arrive at somebody's house saying they're servants, they've come to serve this person, come to offer this person service. So, oh, wonderful. Person takes them in and they serve him for a while, give him pleasure, stability, interesting things, and then they stab him with painful feeling, with miserable perceptions, lost, that perception, unloved, that perception, useless, that perception, these terrible perceptions that can madness. And volitions, intentions that won't ever stop. They seem to be so interesting till you try to stop them, and then they're just buzzing and buzzing and pushing in this way and that way and this way and that way. You lose all your energy. lose your center, lose composure. It's relentless driving out, dithering, fluttering, nattering, chattering, bumbling. Not always unpleasant, but all the energy is just drawn out. And you're living, seeing, and being created by it within this matrix of experience that is so ephemeral, always changing, always shifting, and yet the shifting of it still holds. Sight, sound, we're still very much reacting, responding to that. And I think there's nothing else but that. Nothing else but sight, sound, and whatever that brings. Nothing else but thoughts, mental intentions, and whatever that brings. And these are on fire with passion and pain and sorrow and excitement. Burn you up. Burn something up. And so it's this, the asava, these connections, these irrational, habitual, default connections to these aggregates, when the citta runs out into it. Those are severed. There isn't that compulsive running out. Then the sutta says, then you can use these aggregates for your welfare. And then you do make them your servants. You can use your body, your thoughts, and so on. You can tame pleasure to be something that's quiet and satisfying rather than something exciting and giddying. Subdue pain. It's no longer something you're running from all the time. These are interesting, seem very far-fetched possibilities until you meet someone like Lumpur Chah. The sense of a deep presence, but not also accessible, not kind of distant, but very present, and certainly available, talkative, engaging, but not drawn out. You're going out to encourage, to warn, to rebuke, to humour, to going out deliberately, not drawn out. This is very, however you put it, it still can't really convey the experience. This is a tremendous asset of realized beings. Is you get it. You get it if you don't understand it. You get something different happening here, and something in your body and your heart feels it, and it's got a calming, a sobering, a centering effect. And this is pretty amazing, really. In that you get a teaching right through almost visceral, through a sort of intuitive teaching, something you steady, You feel a sense of respect. You feel held carefully, without even much information. And so this is really, for Chah, what am I to say? I don't know, but certainly this is something very different from your average. Presence. You get the effect of it. And so we kind of commemorate and honour that as a presentation of something that's available in a human form. Rinpoche's human form is not particularly, it's quite kind of dumpy little guy, really. Kind of not brilliant intellect, no, just kind of fairly earthy, humorous, kind of, and yet, so within that, or in relationship to that, this power, this quality is nothing to do really with that form, or that social conditioning, or that, whatever it is to be a person brought up in northeast Thailand. This is not what it's about. So, but also just recognizing that you're part of the inspiring thing about Lumpur Chah was, in some ways, he was very much like a very ordinary, practical person. In some ways, he was very much just a person of his time, familiar with and taking interest in, details of life, way human beings worked. He studied human beings. He studied them deeply and carefully. And he studied them not just in what they were saying, what they were doing, what their energies were about. He could pick up their emotional energies. So he had no problem with teaching Westerners, because he could pick that up, what was happening, and relate and respond to that. So this is what we're kind of commemorating. If you look at the timeline, the bio, you have someone born in 1918, very subsistence farmers in northeast Thailand, pretty tough area, and malaria, common, education, minimal, subsistence farming. Comes a novice about the age of 8 or 9, and that's where he learns to read and write. So, that was the way it was, particularly in rural Thailand. There were no schools. You learned from the monastery. Monastery taught you reading, writing, also how to be a human being, how to behave, how to serve, how to help, how to be a socially functional person, respect and effort. And so then he eventually became bhikkhu. Spent about 7 years in traditional monastery, village monastery. And I thought, this isn't really this isn't going very far. You can get into this village monasteries that are often just like, they are village centres. They perform a function in the village. They're not about nibbana though. And so he thought, he wanted, basic learning of the Dhamma, very primary level, you could say, and some sense of really deciding to go forth to live the austere life, in the example, following the example of the Buddha. And did that. So for about 7 years, wandering on his own, bump into or make his way to various Ajahn, forest Ajahns. They all weren't always so easy to find because a lot of them were on the move all the time, Ajahn Mun particularly. But you might find someone who'd settled down, some very basic situation, rattan hut, root of a tree, mosquito net umbrella to live under, basically, survival, and a tough situation. Having to fend for yourself, make your own robes, patch your own robes with primitive equipment. And but in a sense of the nobility of that, really deciding to do that from a place of nobility. I think this is important to bring this to mind. When you choose, make your choice, use your aggregate of sankhara, volition, aim it high. Then use it for noble purpose. Don't squander it. And this is an example. Well, Chah just, okay, well, we'll just see where this one goes. Aim high. And if I die because I'm going to die anyway. That kind of way of looking at it, using this aggregate to aim high. Can I live simply, live just on what turns up? Not, test myself. Develop parami. Whether he thought like this or just basically got the feeling for it. This was the hallmark of training, developing parami. And so if your mind is leapt, if you're not aware of what those are, dana, generosity, giving, which the highest generosity is giving Dhamma, giving yourself, giving advice, that giving heart, sila, virtue, renunciation, discernment, patience, patiently enduring difficult things, energy, steady putting forth of energy through the difficult, through the tiredness and the strenuous endeavours that were required to survive in that very primitive domain. Truthfulness, not deceiving yourself, let alone not deceiving others, but not believing in your waffle, not believing in your dithering, and not deluding yourself, being honest about your defilements and hindrances, not making excuses. This is the essence of direct practice. Truthful. It's parami. Resolution. Stay with it. Stay with it. Make a resolve, whatever it is. Make a resolve, use resolve for something sacred. You stay with it. see it through. Kindness and equanimity. So these are 10 parami. This is a kind of essence of training. And the beauty of it is you can live within that. When you live within that frame of reference, you're beginning to find a way to, your house, if you like, is secure from these assassins. Letting them in. Know what they're like, the tempting qualities. Want you to sneak in, or you want to sneak away from difficult things, or bury ourselves in something. Being honest about it, and hey, come on. When your intentions are not really straight and clear and honest and courageous, and you're kind of complaining or dithering, knowing it and seeing that as something you want to respond to. So this covers really, the way we live, the way we move around, the way we relate to people, the way we relate to life, events, and of course the strength and the clarity and the resolution that they breed and generate then become tremendous assets for meditation. In fact, there's not the point, I think, of this training of Luang Por Chah's style was there's not really no real break. It's quite even. They call that even practice. It means you're sitting still, you're moving around, you're going arms around, fixing the kuti, going to a Sangha event, same steady, same practice. Things moving fast, but you're steady inside. Things confused, but you're steady inside. Nothing much happening, you're steady inside. So, you build up this steady, smoothness to it. So, and you're watching out for the places where we tend to jump up and down, we get excited, or that one catches you, you get excited, or you get irritated, or you get agitated. What's going on? What am I supposed to do? What time is it? I don't know. Is it this, that, and the other? We get agitated, or we get critical. Why is he doing that? I don't see the point of that. Negative. Or we go, oh, this is fun. Have one of those. Kind of excited and chit-chat. This is the kind of way it goes, isn't it? If you look at it. Be honest about it. Just wait. What's happening? What are you losing? There's the compulsiveness of these outflows. And it's not to be judgmental. It's just to be aware and conscientious, and take it with a sense of like a hunter. You see there. There's the flurry. There's the compulsiveness. There's the reactiveness. And just stop, steady, and using this stabilizing citta to, so the emotional energies roll off it like water off a duck's back. It's not that you have to even run out of the water. You can be in it, but the water's not penetrating. So you can be in unpleasant situations, busy situations, quiet situations, cold, and stuff is there, and yet it's also not so This is how Wat Pah Pong began. And that was about 1954, I think. And he was there for the next nearly 30 years. More than 30 years, actually, yeah. Till 92, 54 to 92, until he passed away. And so around that, this monastery gradually grew. He didn't seek people out. They came and came and came. And the kutis lived under trees, lived in kutis. Support grew, people got interested. He would teach a lot. Branch monasteries sprang up. People would say, could you send some monks down to near our village? Because they found the presence inspiring, steadying, good example of honesty, simplicity, reliable, totally reliable, non-corrupt, and which is unfortunately not the case of every monk in Thailand. As you could imagine, old culture, things slide. But a good one, people know a good one when they see it, and they know the effect. Steadiness, and calming, the example of resilience, frugality, truthfulness, and goodwill. So Lumpur Chah's time, Wat Pah Pong was his manifestation of metta, goodwill in tough love a lot of the time. Giving dana, his dana, and his concern for people's welfare, to take people on. He didn't need to take people on and train and be patient with and visit them when they were sick and listen to them, which he did most of the time. When he wasn't talking, he was listening. Maybe give a talk, one pra, it could be 2 hours or so. But every day, sitting under his kuti, people coming, listening, giving advice. Anybody, villagers, generals, high-ranking civil servants, nuns, monks, crazy people, gangsters, a whole lot, just straight. And learning the language of ordinary people, turning the language of ordinary people to Dhamma, to a tremendous transformer. The last 10 years of his life he was incapacitated with brain damage, but before that occurred he started Chitta-viveka. He's done about not that many branch monasteries established during his lifetime, but less than 100, maybe 50 or so. Branch monastery sounds impressive. It could be just a few rattan huts and a couple of mechis and a bhikkhu and a samanera. It could be very modest indeed, or it could be something quite large. But unusually, he started overseas. And the request came, and Lumpur Chah's metta and generosity said, "Okay, sure, keep the aim high. Why not? Good people in Britain, just like anywhere else. They don't know Buddhist, but they don't know Buddhism maybe, but they know a good thing when they see it. Monks are good, they'll get support." So Ajahn Sucitto, Commemorating, and Rudamananando. And these are monks, so these are the kind of early disciples. And also you recognise really that Lumpur Sucitto was the first, and really he met Rinpoche in about 1966, I think, 65, 66. So it's really only towards the end of his life, and only a few Westerners actually spent more than 2 or 3 years with him. And that was Lumpur Samedo and Lumpur Dhamma and Lumpur Pasano. So not much. But you didn't need to spend much time with him to get it. You didn't need to spend much time because you could get it. And it was pretty simple. And even more, the case is that the Rinpoche's practice and training standards became embedded in the monastery. And so the monastery became the teacher in a way. Or the situation the monastery generated. So this year they're not having a gathering because of COVID, but most years you go to Wat Pah Pong at this time and there's maybe 20,000 people, 10,000 people. Just difficult to count. But as you're coming through the gates, it's difficult to find an inch of earth that hasn't got a human body on it. If it's not a road, hopefully the roads are kept clear, but it's just bodies everywhere. That's pretty impressive, you know. The fact that so many people come in to be on the hard earth with a mosquito net, to be there. But the other thing you notice is there's no signs, there's no police. Police are at the gate, showing cars where to go. They're not inside the monastery, no. There's no ushers. There's nobody telling anybody what to do. Everybody just finds somewhere, puts their mat down. They're like 10 centimeters away from the next body. There's no issues, there's no conflict. It's quiet. And you've got like a football crowd-sized congregation, quiet, with nobody organising them. You're thinking, what's happening, you know? Because they, that quality that Lumpur Chah was talking about, this inner, the citta withdrawn, that's what they're doing. Doesn't mean they're not aware of other people, by no means. You have to move around a very, narrow, tight space, know where the lavatories are, where the Dhamma hall is, where you get food and water, all these things, but there's none of that drawn out. It's composed, collected, and kindly, and patient with each other. So it's incredibly inspiring. You see that that quality that I could see in Lumpur Chah, he developed or collected into, stays there. Because of the qualities of the monastery and the Sangha are tuned to cultivating these parami. It's almost in the genes, I'm sure everybody has their defilements and but basically the main trend is that, the main theme is that. And you can feel it. It quietens you, it steadies you, it composes you. You don't need to be told, you pick it up. People cooperate and are courteous and quiet and humorous, but it's collected to such an extent that many more people have become disciples of Ajahn Chah since he died than when he was alive. More monasteries have been founded in his name since he passed away than when he was alive. As if, the aggregates passed away, but the Luang Por Chah chitta, remains. And I'm not talking about some kind of soul present, but the intelligence, the attitude, the cultivation, is, and the living it out remains. Steady practice, smoothing out places where you get ruffled, smoothing it out the places where you get fed up, smoothing it out the places where you get negligent and can't be bothered, smoothing it out the places where you get irritated, snipey, smoothing it out the places where you get greedy and hanging on, smoothing it out, steadying it out. And that just, all these assassins are very gifted at getting in. They keep trying to get in, and they present very convincing tickets to get in through your door. Yeah. And it's those tickets you've got to look at. Say, really? Is that sure? Can't stand it? Can't stand it? Of course you can. Shouldn't be this way? What are you talking about? Yeah. It's not fair? Got to have one of those? It's not my turn? They come in with these little kind of tickets that, I'll buy that. And chitta goes into that, gets stirred up and agitated and wound up, and and then crash. Oh dear, where did I go? Lost it. So these are the places where we develop the resolution and the clarity and the discernment and the honesty. Just be honest. This is where you overthrow these, called the vipalasas, or the distortions, the dishonesties, the idea that things can be permanent, and they can't. Tell the truth. The idea that things will be satisfactory when they won't be. You can have things that go my way when they're not. If you don't hold that view, you don't get so upset. And pushy and uncooperative. If you don't hold these views that things are going to be satisfactory and lasting and what I want and my way, if you don't hold those views, you don't get so upset. And so it's this truthfulness to understand the characteristics, the way experience manifests. And it can sound kind of miserable, the experience is changeable, non-graspable, shifting, there's no secure place to be found in it. Experience or manifestation is unsatisfying, incomplete, never finished, never resolved. Experience is never something I can get myself completed by, established in, made secure by. Sounds miserable, but the point is that these signs are the things that remind you to withdraw from those, to stay in the center. They would not there. The idea is not to make you miserable, but to help you to withdraw from the views and the persuasions And these influxes that relentlessly pull the citta out into agitation and delusion and loneliness and despair. And this is pretty earthy practice, because we're practicing with life as it happens. In this particular way. So it's life as it happens, but it's life as it happens within the boundaries of the parami. There's life that's balanced, held within virtue, held within sharing and generosity. It's life that comes in through that abiding place. When Chah made it not just an exhortation, also made it look enjoyable. It could be very funny and bright and kind of like almost like a creature of the jungle, kind of bright and colourful. So we're commemorating something that's not just it's about another person, but it's also about something that's beyond the person, that's available. And also commemorating the fact with gratitude, the time when, in a Buddhist country, a lot of Buddhism was lost as a transcendent experience. Buddhism in Thailand was primarily a cultural experience, not a transcendent one, not even aimed at transcending, not even aimed at nibbana. There's only the forest teachers who felt this has got to be possible. Aim high. Aim high. If you fail, it doesn't matter, just keep aiming high. And that courage, faith, itself is inspiring. And he definitely felt it could be done outside of Thailand. There's also someone whose interest was to keep learning and encourage others to keep learning. So although you had in many ways, a very strict and restrained situation in some respects, there's also a lot of freedom to find out for yourself. And the two go together. Yeah, we rather enjoy the idea of, for a while anyway, finding out for yourself and being your own person and working it out, but without some sort of reference point, it's easy just to go completely off track. Just follow every notion that comes into your head. So this sense of find out for yourself is pretty strong in Ajahn Chah and in the forest teachers. They just go out to the jungle and find out how to do it, work it out, and encouraged. So there's no particular meditation system, often pretty simple ones, like Buddho, or primarily just giving that repeated reference point until mindfulness is established to the point of knowing, and then holding that knowingness through the waves of life. And so how you do that, it's up to you. How you get to that place of mindful knowing, it's your choice, what works for you. And Chah was pretty open to different ways of doing it. Even Zen, and people talked about Christianity, so well, maybe they're right, maybe that way, that's their way of doing it. And it's a human thing. So these two together, both a sense of a lot of freedom, but a lot of restraint, obligation. You've got to turn up. Can't goof off. Got to stay in the template. There's alms round, there's chanting, there's a daily regime, there's loyalty to the sangha duties to be done. Some of them on level of etiquette, going to pay respects, some of them physical work, chanting, arms round and so forth. And you keep that going as just external reference points which you keep meeting, your views, opinions, where you get stuck, where you get negligent, smoothing it out, steady practice. So in essence, it's something that's quite portable. And Luang Por above all, his practice and his training style, his attitudes have developed and been all over the planet actually. Brazil, Canada, Australia, and so on. Italy, Norway, all over the place. Because one thing that Chah used a lot was other people as practice. It's one of the distinctive qualities of his own style was community. And most of the forest land, you'd be on your own. Just to get off on your own into your own hut or your own place, see each other minimally, arms around in silence maybe. That's it. Maybe a talk once a fortnight. Other time, go back to your kuti. Luang Por Chah, a lot of community practice, community work, community chanting. Some of the forest monasteries, no chanting. I think Dhamma Mahaburs, no chanting. No meat for that. And in Chah Monastery, chanting. Morning chanting, evening chanting, sometimes long in Thai and English. Lay people coming in, joining in, unlike most forest monasteries. So, very much community. And using community both as a sense of this is where your metta has to be built, your ability to cooperate, sympathize, be generous, be sharing, be patient with each other. This is where it really meets the test. And also when it does occur, when it does gel, you actually find yourself flowing within a human vehicle of a group. And a human being is one of the primary, in any situation, the most evocative experiences occur presence of other human beings, for light, for positive or negative. Nothing else carries as much resonance as another human being. So this is definitely, a very potent experience. And many teachers will just avoid them. Too much, too complicated, too evocative, too stirring, always getting chit-chat, arguing, fascination. No, use it. Use it, because it has potency, and if you can turn it, if you can turn the social experience into community, you have something that has that same potency, that same resonance, that same grip, if you like, but for the good. You're held in the sense of we do this because we're this. We don't do that. This is beneath us. We are the Sangha. This is beneath us, and that extends out. As you can see, you go to Wat Pah Pong, that extends right out to even the young boys, 8 years old, are coming into the monastery, looking after the monks' poles, learning the chanting, living, training with respect. It extends, they feel they're part of the community. The old guys, the old women, and the young kids, they're all in it. And the samaneras and everybody is in it, and they're all picking up the same thing because they're getting it from the resonances of the human experience around them. They're getting it somatically. You don't need a lot of talking to it, they pick it up. And just to get that. So you go to Wat Pah Pong, you get 30,000 people living together, conscientiously, carefully, gently, quietly, focused, diligent, sitting up all night, sitting up all night, not till 12 but until 4, and then going off to work, because the power of that is deep, and most everyone will get on the personal, if you get this place where you just feel, oh no, I'm bored and dreary, can't, no, enough of this, and fed up, oh dear, when is this going to end? I heard this before, I'm fed up with this anyway. Oh, there we go again, oh my back aches, and you stay with it, eventually mind just withdraws. You stay with it. It can, with training, it can do, you go to another level, you find, hey, there's some energy here. And stuff's going on, but I'm not bothered. I feel there's a certain, you find that the citta can withdraw from these uncomfortable experiences into something. You realise you're stronger than you think you are. And it's not a personal strength. It's the strength of the Dhamma. Yeah. And you're stronger and brighter than you think you are. You're stronger and brighter than your personality is. And then you see the validity of these practices. And manifesting in terms of the thousands of people, amplified by it. So you pick up the same resonance. And this is such an important and powerful and unusual teaching. And really optimistic teaching. Because right now we see in the world, as always, so much fragmentation. If you go to any newspaper, you're going to be at least 80% of that newspaper will be about the horrors of other people. The corruptions, the violence, the brutal rapist, the disgusting politician who's milked off 5 million, the da-da-da-da-da, It'll be about that. What a pain other people are. Or just in helpless misery. The starving and the dying and so forth. And you see something about, you see in newspaper, you see the fragmentations, nations not helping each other, nations set against nations, regions set against regions, northerners disliking southerners, southerners disliking northerners, easterners disliking westerners, people in cities disliking the people in the country, people in the country disliking people in the city, liberals disliking conservatives, conservatives hating Democrats. So much fragmentation, on and on and on, right down to the family level. You think human beings are messed up species, really messed up species. And you see something like this, and you see something like what happens at Wat Pa Pong, what happens in Ajahn Chah's monastery. Ajahn Chah, everybody starts to get a bit upset, say, remember Luang Por Chah. Oh yeah, right, pull yourself, straighten up, this is about Luang Por Chah, right, and you come back into line. And it can work. You can have so many thousands of people, nobody really in charge of it. What's in charge of it is discernment and clarity and respect. And people flow along happily and harmoniously. And all a situation like that is, have these food kitchens, people just bringing food, and everybody gets enough to eat, free books, everything given away. People just, generosity is overwhelming. And see the beauty of the human being and the positive aspect of it. So necessary to remember that. And these are in some ways very ordinary people. Very ordinary and yet touching into something that's transcendent through practice. And through practice that is sustained through everything. Practice that incorporates all your intention, your perceptions, your feelings, because this is the ones you can turn from being experiences that make you miserable, petty, grumpy, pushy, so forth, into experiences that make you grand and noble. And for this we are truly grateful. So as the Buddha himself said, the best way to honour and revere the Tathagata is to practice what the teaching. And I think that's exactly the way we should honour and respect Luang Por Chah. Anyone?
Dhamma Uvalagata Sadhu